Good evening, Trinidad and Tobago. Good evening to our UNC friends and family. Let me say well done to our previous speakers. They're all warriors of the UNC, all true revolutionaries. Now, I have several matters I want to raise today, so bear with me because they're very, very important issues I want to raise. I want to talk about the death of democracy. I want to talk about our parallel economy and parallel state. I want to talk about the fact that the crisis remains. I want to talk about these so-called independent senators. I want to speak about our Constitution, which is the foundation of our nation. I want to speak about our October Revolution. And of course, I will close when I'm done by calling upon you to join our revolution. So we are in the midst of a very historic battle today. Our country is at a crossroads. Dictator Rowley has crossed a dangerous line in his illegal effort to get rid of the former Commissioner of Police. But PM Rowley does not care about the law or the Constitution. Those things mean nothing to him. His power alone means everything to him. He has taken our country to a dangerous point. And Prime Minister, don't tell us about incompetence. The most incompetent person is yourself, aided and abetted by your incompetent Attorney General. And I'll get back to that. I would like to share with you a social media post that I received about the Rowley PNM, and I quote from it. They buff you, they insult you, they tax you, they threaten you, they took away all your grants, they took away gate from your children, they took away your jobs, they took away all your hopes and dreams. And if that is not bad enough, they started changing laws to legalize their corrupt behavior. I ask you today, is that what you voted for? Is that what you voted for? I cannot believe that even the strongest PNM supporters voted for this. Indeed, I know that even PNM supporters are upset with Rowley and cannot support him any longer. The only people who are living good, they remain resilient, are the friends, the families, and the financiers of the Rowley PNM. And not them alone. The 19 ministers who recused themselves, total of our 210 times, they are resilient and they are doing well. I know some of you feel hopeless when we look at what is going on in our country today. We see Rowley appearing to get away with whatever he wants. We see the PNM and their allies in the media trying to blame the opposition. But this is not the full story. We have exposed them. The Rowley PNM are in danger. They are weak. People are opening their eyes and losing their fear. Now is not the time to give up. Rest assured, I will always stand by you and fight for you. As long as I'm here, you can trust that I will stand up to this bully called Rowley. And I tell you and remind you, I do it for you. I do it because I love my country. I do it because I love you. And I want the best for every citizen of this country, everyone, every single one, regardless of where you live, regardless how much money you make or don't make, regardless of what work you do, regardless of your race, regardless of your religion, your gender, your ethnicity. I am here to fight for all of us. And with your help and support that you give to me by strength, as strength and inspiration every single day, I always tell you, half of me belongs to you. The other half I give to you. I said last week that no amount of posturing, no amount of bullying or virtue signaling by Rowley will absolve him of the crisis he has created. This crisis has kept Gary Griffith from remaining as COP today. As MP Muninal said earlier, this time it is Gary Griffith. Be warned. Next time it could be about you, any one of you, not getting your promotion that you deserve or getting fired for political reasons. Next time, it could be about government taking away your property. It could be about being arrested for posting something on social media that some minister doesn't like. It could be about the government imposing hardship after hardship on you outside of the law illegally with no resources in order to give their friends, their family, financiers, and themselves to benefit. This is a battle in which we're engaged. to stop them in their tracks. This is what our October Revolution is about. I pause to say congratulations to Team UNC. I think we were all very proud at their performances and their contributions in the Parliament last Thursday. The entire team, they fought side by side against this galloping dictatorship inside the Parliament. If the PNM think that last Thursday was the end of our struggle to hold them to account, they have another think coming. They are wrong. They are woefully wrong. That was just the beginning. We will not let the PNM silence us. We will not let them get away with creating a dictatorship in our country, where a prime minister can do what he wants, to choose a commissioner of police, one that he likes, one that he wants, regardless of the law, where a president and a police service commission can withdraw a list without following any proper procedure because the prime minister did not like what was on that list. Once they reach this point, there is nothing that they will stop at. Our independent institutions risk being nothing more than facades. They are already compromised. The Rowley PNM seeks control of every single thing and every single one. They have a deep presence in everything, in all. And it's our duty, our sacred duty, to stop them. Last Thursday was a travesty of justice. That's how I describe that sitting. It was a travesty of justice within the highest court of our land, the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago. The People's House was hijacked by dictators, but our UNC team fought on. Despite their best efforts, Team UNC persevered and fought on till the last minute. We followed the best tradition of Westminster parliamentary democracy, vigorously, robustly fighting for the rights of all of you, as the Prime Minister and Executive overstepped their bounds. I am proud of Team UNC. I am UNC and I am proud. I am proud of the team for such bravery in the face of such an unprecedented assault on our Constitution and on our democracy. And so democracy dies in darkness. There's a famous line, quotation, which says, democracy dies in darkness. To the great disgrace of our country, in what will be looked upon in horror by the rest of the world and our future generations, on Thursday, both houses of Parliament, House of Representatives and the Senate, voted to keep you in the dark over questions relating to interference in our independent institutions. All of the government MPs and senators, together with all of the so-called independent senators, and you know they are appointed by the president. They are given life in that Senate by the president. They all voted to keep secret whether Prime Minister Rowley and President Weeks acted in concert to interfere in the Police Service Commission merit list for appointment to the post of Commissioner of Police. They did not want the president to be investigated. They voted to treat her like a queen who cannot be questioned. They voted to keep you in the dark so that we cannot see all the wheeling and dealing in the nooks and crannies of President's house. For whatever reason, government and independent senators seem to like it so, but we don't, and we will continue to fight against such transgressions. So what did they do? Last Thursday, government and independents voted to keep you in the dark as to why the president did not submit the police service list, merit list, to the Parliament as was required by our law. Last Thursday, government and independent centers voted to keep you in the dark as to why, for the first time in our history, we do not have a commissioner of police, we do not have an acting commissioner of police, and we do not have a police service commission which is empowered to appoint these officers. Because of our pressure on him, we now know that Prime Minister Rowley lost confidence in Gary Griffith since last year. But the government and independent centers do not want to establish the truth as to whether this was the reason why all this interference occurred. However, I point out, as important as this particular issue is, the vote was about much more than winning the vote. It was a vote about ensuring that the sacred principles of our Constitution remain intact. If we as a country allow Rowley to get away with this, if we allow him to cross this line, And if we don't push him back into his corner, then God help us all in our country. He will interfere in everything and with everyone, without any limits or without any restraints. And therefore, he needs to be stopped. The Rowley regime needs to be stopped. We have a sacred principle, and that is what we wish to defend. And that is the idea that governments must serve the people. It must not be the other way around. Governments must serve the people. Governments are not supposed to dig into our pockets to make us poorer in order to help themselves and their friends and their families and financiers. Governments are meant to help us create wealth for the benefit of the country. Governments are not supposed to use the police to protect themselves. They're supposed to establish a police force to protect people, you, the people. The Constitution has these principles enshrined within it. Prime Minister Rowley and the PNM want to ignore those aspects of our Constitution that do not serve them. But I stand here to remind them, no one is above the law. Not the opposition leader, not the Prime Minister, not the President. No one is above the law. Going into that vote last week, I knew the government would do all they could, even cheat if necessary, which is what they actually did. They would do all they could to stop this process from taking place. And so we thought it, we discussed it as a caucus, and so it was done. So I said the motion and the vote last week was not just about winning a vote. It was doing our duty to the Constitution and to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. That is the oath of office that we took. It was to bring about a debate on the issue, to bring the machinations of the deep parallel state, deep parallel state, out from the darkness and into the light. Government cheated because there is no such thing as a substantial motion which can be voted upon without a debate. There's no such thing in our law. This dictatorship of the PNM, this is not democracy. We will be taking legal action. I serve notice on the unilateral illegal guidelines used by the Speaker. That too is part of our revolution. That too is part of our revolution. So, as an opposition, the loyal opposition of Trinidad and Tobago, we will continue to defend the Constitution and the democratic principles of our great republic. I want to say, by the way, happy birthday, Prime Minister Rowley. But at the same time, I want to remind you, sir, that the people of our nation may be of different political persuasions, may be of different races, may be of different religions. However, we are forever one people. United we are, one people, forged from the love of liberty in the fires of hope and prayer. The people of our country will never allow the lights of democracy to be extinguished by tyrants and dictators. We firmly believe in God and know that the victory of light over darkness is assured. Put another way, in the words of Haile Selassie I, we know we shall win as we are confident in the victory of good over evil. End of quote. Try as he might, Prime Minister Rowley cannot hide the truth from the people of this country. The scripture teaches us what is done in the dark will soon come to light. What is done in the dark will soon come to light. It is inevitable. Prime Minister Rowley can run, but he cannot hide. He can run, but he cannot hide. I turn now to talk about parallel economy and parallel state. This is a very important concept. Some talk about the deep state, which is what goes on away from the glare of your eyes and mine, which happens out there in the darkness, where you have what amounts to really an elite. I talked about them as a mafiosa governing the country, much of which we don't know about or what takes place behind those closed doors. We have heard lots of talk about a parallel economy that exists beneath our formal banking structures. The events of the last few weeks have uncovered the operations of a parallel state. The actors in this parallel state, deep state, some call it, operate above and beyond the reach of the Parliament and the Constitution. They are accountable to no one, or so they think. In order to keep their parallel state hidden, These actors shut down any debate or public discussion. They declare those who want answers as being disgraceful and disrespectful. I will deal with that point in a moment. They know that the mainstream media will fall all over themselves to associate with these colonial devices of good order and proper conduct. They have now shifted to blaming the drafters of my motion, our motion. 19 MPs signed this motion in good faith, seeking answers to all kinds of meanderings, the things that were happening in the deep state, in the parallel state, in the halls of President's house in secret. So they've shifted now. I see today now they're saying, blaming some drafter. There were 19 of us who signed it. We are the drafters of that motion. And if there's anyone to blame, Prime Minister, you could have taken that point in the debate. If it was allowed, if you had allowed a debate, you could say, hey, this motion is badly drafted. Why didn't you come and do that? Instead, you stayed there silent, all of you. Not one word out of you, because you were up to nefarious tricks. You knew what you were doing. You knew what you were doing. That is why you put all these guidelines to shut down the debate, to muzzle us. And then you say, and some of those people in the media parroted what you're saying it's a skimpy motion. No, people have skimpy bikinis. But this motion was well crafted and well drafted. We set out the particulars, we set out the grounds. And then in the debate, it would have been fleshed out. So all would have come to light. So to say it was a skimpy motion, well, listen, if it was a defective motion, why did not the Speaker reject it? Why? In the past, when we file motions, not only would the Speaker reject them, she will write it over for you. She'll take out your words and put her own words. So if it were defective, why was it admitted? It means the motion was a good and proper motion. That is why it was admitted on the Parliament order paper. So don't come with that nonsense about skimpy motion. You are looking for every little tree to hide behind, every fig leaf, but you will not escape this time. You can run, but you cannot hide. So I'm saying they are shifting blame on the drafters of the motion. And the drafters were all 19 MPs. Okay? Consider this. If it were a longer motion, Rowley, would you have voted for it? Would you have come into Parliament and voted for it for a longer motion? So all this skimpiness is foolishness. Plain smart with foolishness. And we are not taking that blame, you know. You breached the Constitution and the law to shut down a debate, to protect yourselves and your friends and your family and the President. I am not taking blame for that, sir. That is totally bolted to your chest. That blame is totally bolted to your chest. So the UNC will continue this, to expose this parallel PNM state, now in operation. We will continue to unmask the network of PNM operatives who have hijacked our Constitution and killed our democracy. When a government would use resources of the state to find out the personal details of someone who made a negative comment about him and use a press conference to attack that person, our democracy is being undermined. When all these independent centers will jump out of themselves to criticize the opposition for demanding the right to represent the views of the population, but they will never comment on the serious allegations of political interference by the Prime Minister with respect to this appointment of a Commissioner of Police, ask yourself, who are they really represented? Our democracy is being undermined. And you see, there has been a convention in our country that we do not openly attack the independent senators. But those days are over. When you stepped out of your crease to step into the political guile on behalf of the PNM, we reserve the right, and we will do so, to come back at you. You will not be allowed to make all your desperation comments against the opposition, not one about the government. So check yourself, because we are on your case. We shall expose you whom you are. When it is an Attorney General will refuse to comment on children looking like his, illegally handling some big guns, they sweep it under the carpet. Where is that investigation? Our democracy is being undermined. This illegal act remains not prosecuted up to today. When that same AG will brazenly lie to the Parliament, our democracy is being undermined. Remember when you lied about me and said, I gave, when I was Prime Minister, I gave housing rentals and so on Hey, that is bolted squarely to your chest, Faris. That is not mine. You had to come and apologize in the parliament for lying. And you do it very, very frequently. When a MP will bring fake emails to the parliament, making wild and not substantiated claims of a conspiracy, not any just conspiracy, to commit murder, claims I believe he knew to be a lie, which is why he did not report it to the police for months. Did nothing with it, but came to the parliament with his fake emails. And whilst I'm on that point, I want to point out something here. A gentleman by the name of Roger K. Walsing says that he sent in an email thread, he sent something to a person who was a candidate, Gary Griffith. An email from within the bowels of the Police Service Commission to Gary Griffith. So the president steps forward now and says, well, hey, listen, give us an explanation. Why did you leak these confidential emails on an email? Why did you leak it? So the president is attempting to show, well, look, I'm investigating this. I want to know what happened and why it happened. It should not have happened. Lo and behold, when the gentleman gave a feeble reason, being, you know what he said? He said it was a slip of the finger, and it was on an email thread, his finger slipped on a, you ever hear nonsense like that? Smart with foolishness. And then what happens? What did the president do when he gave that feeble, foolish explanation? What did that madam do? Madam has done nothing. No investigation has been launched. Nothing has been done. If it were Kamla and Anil and Anand Ramlogan and any one of us in the UNC, what? Police come to your house. They pick up your computer. They pick up your cell phone. Big inquiry. So it's one stroke, different strokes for different folks. Why was that not reported somewhere? Why was no investigation done to find out how that occurred? But you quickly come to me or come to Anil or any one of us in the UNC. Big investigation. I'll never forget that day when we went up to police headquarters because of these fake emails. Toting computer. I think Barry was there with me, a few people. We had to tote all this big computer to carry it up there in the police headquarters. Why none of that is happening now? And they knew. Today I confirm Rowley knew that those emails were fake. You know why? Because one of the players in that conspiracy that you exposed or attempted to expose in your email was whom? Gary Griffith. Gary Griffith, conspiracy to murder reporter Gary Griffith. And you come thereafter and do what? Appoint Gary Griffith as Commissioner of Police. So you knew they were fake. Anyhow, I mean, no sane Prime Minister would believe that Gary was a conspirator to murder journalists and then appoint him Commissioner of Police. So you knew they were fake from right at the beginning. But I come back again. When it is that happens, fake emails, our democracy has been undermined. When an entire cabinet refuses to call an election for a local government seat down in Davis South here, in the Penal David Corporation, 8 months, depriving thousands of residents of their democratic right of representation, our democracy is being undermined. You could call 2 elections in Tobago, but for 8 months you refused, failed, and or neglected to name an election date for Davis South. You know why? You know why? It's because you know we will win that seat. But I've sent you the pre-action letters and we will be filing our matters in the court very shortly. Again, when cabinet members recuse themselves over 200 times because some business they or their families are involved in is to be discussed and decided upon in the cabinet, again, our democracy is being undermined. When a prime minister will breach COVID regulations, hold a secret meeting, you all remember that, with the oil barons from Venezuela, and then he lied about it. When we caught him out and we showed the manifest of all the passengers who were on that flight, he said he didn't even know who they were. I was a prime minister, sir, and we know things don't happen like that. People can't just walk into your office, and especially in a time of restriction, just walk in and sit down to talk to you. And if you really let that happen, that is slackness and recklessness in the highest order. You sat with these oil barons. That is our democracy being undermined. When a prime minister, as I say, boasts about being the head of a Cosa Nostra, a secret society, threatening persons if they do not keep his secrets, then too our democracy is being undermined. I say again, Try as he might, PM Rowley cannot hide the truth from the people of the country. As scripture teaches us, I repeat, what is done in darkness will come to light. He could run, but he cannot hide. And after all of the shenanigans and shutting down and cheating in the parliament on Thursday, what has happened? The crisis remains. It still remains. And no amount of distractions and your allegation of disgraceful behavior and disrespect, none of that is going to take away the fact that the crisis remains. The Prime Minister might think that Thursday was the end of our struggle to hold them to account. As I said before, they are wrong to believe that. Let us not lose sight as to why we brought that Section 36 motion. We have questions that still need answers. Shutting down the Parliament will not prevent us from continuing to ask these very vital questions. And some of these are, why did the President first say she received a merit list from the Police Service Commission and then afterwards said a list was submitted and withdrawn? That only came to light subsequent to the events. Who withdrew this list and why? Was the list withdrawn on instructions from Rowley? Why did the entire Police Service Commission resign en bloc, creating chaos? Why was Rowley writing to the Police Service Commission last year, trying to influence the re-selection of Gary Griffith as Commissioner of Police? Is the reason Rowley lost confidence in Gary Griffith was because Gary locked up Stuart's daughter, and he was going after DSS and a certain MP from that area? And is it a fact also that the TTPS has investigated credit card Camille for some bank deposit? Is the reason Rowley lost confidence in Gary Griffith is because the polls are showing that Gary Griffith is more popular than Rowley? Did you know that? Is that one of the reasons that he lost his confidence in him? On what constitutional authority did the President return the merit list to the former chairman, Bissessar? Why did the President not disclose this information to the court, that the list was handed to her and then taken back? Famous Trini Cataboyle for sure, for somebody. Who was the unnamed public official mentioned in Kewal Singh's resignation letter who allegedly interfered unlawfully in the business of the Police Service Commission at President's house? And is it on 11th or the 12th? Again, the stories keep coming and they keep changing. One day they came on 11, another time the President puts out statement says 12. Why did the President breach Section 123 of the Constitution? Simple, 1, 2, 3. Why did you breach it? By not sending to Parliament the list for the Acting Commissioner of Police for consideration, because that is what Madam is constitutionally mandated to do. Why are there so many different versions of this story? Which ones are correct? Which version is true? Why are there so many versions? Is it another Nancy story to try to confound our brains? Well, we will not be fooled. What happened in the darkness will come to light. And I want to turn now to the independent senators, so-called independent senators. One of the most disgraceful things about that vote on Thursday was watching how the so-called independent senators capitulated to the PNM's will as opposed to standing up for people. However, we have to know there's a built-in problem. These senators are handpicked by the President, so how can they be expected to vote for an investigation into her actions? However, our Constitution gives us an answer to that. It says there is provision for a secret ballot. So, this is the way no one can tell who voted for whom. And so if an independent senator voted for the tribunal to investigate the President will not know who voted in what way. That's why the Constitution provides for the secret vote, the secret ballot, which they also refused. This is why I call for that secret ballot, which is what the Electoral College always uses. Any time in our history the Electoral College has met, except where there is no vote, where there's not a contested election, it has always been my secret ballot. And I think it is because the PNM, Rowley PNM, they wanted to put as much pressure on the independent senators as possible. These so-called independent senators talk about disgraceful and fish market. Do they not find it disgraceful that because of Rowley, PM Rowley, for the first time in our history, we have no commissioner of police, no acting commissioner of police, only one DCP, and no police service commission. Don't they find that disgraceful? Have they lost their tongues? Don't they find it disgraceful that the country does not know if the Prime Minister illegally influenced the Police Service Commission or the President in his vendetta against Gary Griffith? Do they not find it disgraceful that the country does not know whether the President and the Commission acted against the law in keeping away the merit list from the Parliament? I said these are just some of the questions that we raise, and we will, together with our brave fighters in the Senate, the MPs, together with the senators, our senators, we will continue to speak out and be the voice of the people in the Senate. The UNC will never allow TNT to be ruled by tyrants and dictators. Last week, I turned now to some constitutional issues related to the events that have unfolded in the public domain. Last week, we embarked on a journey which was unprecedented. It took us into an area of our Constitution which has never been used before. And certainly, it was never foreseen until recently that it would be used. One cannot deny, however, that our Constitution contains provisions which govern the process for removing a president from office. You cannot deny also the right of opposition members of Parliament to trigger those provisions, which is what we did. I am reading these so-called commentators in the newspapers, and I'm sorry to say, but I cannot help but get the distinct impression that some are angry because we try to ventilate serious issues about the highest officers, the conduct of highest officers in the land, President, Prime Minister. They probably wanted those issues to be ventilated by them in the newspapers. They didn't want the opposition to do it. Every Sunday, they come out pontificating, probably because maybe they are trying to sell more papers, I don't know. So I'm saying, reading these so-called commentators, I get the impression that they're not happy that we brought this for whatever reason. And I'm just speculating, could it be because they wanted to be the harbingers of these issues to sell their newspapers? So we see now the opposition is being chastised and denigrated by all of these comments about disgraceful behavior and disrespectable conduct. But we on this side are happy that all of this is happening. We are doing our duty to the Constitution and to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. We have come a long way in 50 years from when we had one television station. Some of you are young enough like me to remember we had one television station, yes? We had 2 newspapers. Remember those days? We now have social media and a generation which has grown up accustomed to receiving information from unlimited points of view. So we are not handcuffed to reading these diatribes every Sunday and whichever days, but I think this Sunday is a lot of columnists there. Their perspectives, these young people, are not limited to the views of mainstream media or government propaganda. They know what is fair and they know what is not fair. We have tested the Constitution, and some of the reactions to that exercise have been very, very telling. People are suddenly aware of the practical realities of inbuilt government majorities in the Senate. They calculated an impossible 2/3 requirement of the Electoral College, the relevance of so-called independent senators, the role of the Speaker, and the deliberate secrecy of a president who is not elected by the people. So what can be observed in the aftermath of Thursday's sitting? Some in TND seem to be more concerned with behavior than with honesty. There are some who aspire to be the center and from that lofty place condemn all politicians from practicing politics. They seem oblivious to the fact that politics is part of our democracy. Regrettably, we appear to have never moved beyond the plantation society. We have only replaced the governor's mansion with what? President's house. When the British left, the power vacuum was filled by an urban elite who kept the same crown colony structures that inhibit true debate and accountability. At independence, we were fooled with the trappings of a nation. We were fooled with the false narrative of a constitution which promotes social justice and parliamentary democracy. I ask you, has it done so? Dr. Williams wanted no proportional representation. He wanted a president effectively selected by the Prime Minister, and who is what? The pawn of the Prime Minister and the executive. The Constitution was tested last week. Many things were demonstrated. The short point is that the government in power can do almost anything and get away with it. Those who protest are told to shut up and are branded what? Disgraceful. That is a narrative that is still being pushed by the so-called center, aided by the editorials and columnists. They all know something is wrong, but in order to maintain a facade of independence, they never fail to lash the opposition, while they meekly and most respectfully do not criticize the government. The so-called elites of the center and those who aspire to mimic them will continue to complain about the opposition's behavior. That is like a feel-good moment for them, to drop blows on the opposition without equally raising their criticism against the government. And after their euphoria has passed and issues of accountability still remain, they will return to their dignified, respectable silence. After all, why complain about a system that works for them? Why? Why would they want to do that? I think in these recent events, the center has been unmasked. They will not let their privileges and claims of superiority fall apart. That is why they are yelling and squealing so loudly. Ordinary people of this country, they are not fools. You will tell me, why didn't we do some constitutional reform? Well, we started that process. We had a commission, we had a committee set up for constitutional reform, which was under the Minister of Legal Affairs then, Prakash Ramada, and Hamid Ghani and others served, very distinguished sons and daughters served on that Constitution Commission. Some of their recommendations we have implemented by way of legislation in the Parliament, and the rest is history, went out of government. But that reform report is still sitting there in government offices. So it is something we really need, seriously need, constitutional reform, because the structures are colonial structures designed to keep people under pressure, designed to have the government have their knee to the necks of the ordinary people. The whole concept of independent senators is a device designed to put a selected and chosen few in the parliament to support the status quo. Some are given cabinet committee appointments and stipends that go with those. Some are given government legal briefs. And indeed, some are just happy to get the PBR pass. They're just happy for that. And to get tax exemptions for vehicles and so on. Some are glad for the 5 minutes of fame on a television program or a few lines of print in the newspapers. So this notion of independent senators has, over the last 50 years, bred the idea, engendered the idea, the nasty idea, that a portion of the population is somehow superior. They look down on the others. They call the others tribal, base, disrespectful, disgraceful. It is an alternative concept and is attractive for some who will always mimic their views in order to be seen as part of the elite class. Pandey had called them the parasitic oligarchy, but it's far more than just that. This is a deep state, a parallel state operated in secret to govern your lives. We have in essence invented our own aristocracy, where these little barons and baronesses are handpicked, and they now want to lord it over the rest of the population. Really now, just think about it. The president can pick anyone. There is no criteria in the Constitution that you should have one Oliver. There is no criteria that you should have expertise and experience in research and so on. No, nothing. The president just wakes up one morning and decides, I want Mr. X or Madam Y to be a senator. Handpicked. No scrutiny. No minimum qualifications. And then they want us to presume that these people are independent. Well, we will expose their dependence as we go forward to show that they are very dependent on the largest of the state and, of course, from the hand of the president, that should they step out of line, could be removed. Relative unknowns are elevated and given the light to pontificate on Diwali Nagar, to tell us what is respectable, who is disgraceful, because they are somehow seen as above the rest of the people of the country. These pseudo-aristocrats are given plenty space in the media, which wants to emulate them, to say that Parliament became a fish market. They never say anything when the Prime Minister goes on political platforms and cusses anybody who opposes him. and uses the most obscene language. And then he too comes to say disgraceful behavior by the opposition. That is like Satan trying to correct sin, Prime Minister. Some of their masks have slipped through. One of them was as silent as a lamb in the parliamentary chamber last Thursday. Now he has come out in the media to attack the opposition. An opposition senator, as I said before, he stepped into the political gael on behalf of the PNM. He has done so. And you cannot play mass and freight powder, Senator. You cannot play mass and freight powder. We will respond to you. This pseudo-aristocracy has no right to judge anyone. I tell them all today, don't hide behind headlines. Pay your deposit, offer yourself to the people, let the people choose you to talk for them in the parliament. The media is not the parliament. There is only one parliament in Trinidad and Tobago. And today I say, he who has eyes to see, let him see. And he who has ears to hear, let him hear. I say again, you can run, but you cannot hide. We, the people, will hold you to account for every corrupt act you and your bunch of recusers and deal makers do. We serve you notice, adequate warning. Now, I have written here a letter to the Director of Public Prosecutions, dated today's date, yes, 25th October, and with respect to this matter. Requests for an immediate investigation into the actions of the Attorney General and other high office holders for misbehavior in public office and conspiracy to commit the offense of misbehavior in public office by seeking to unlawfully interfere and influence the independent exercise of powers by the office of the DPP, given to the office of the DPP under Section 90 of our Constitution. So we've taken this step. The details are caught in this letter. The facts are laid out, the factual matrix, and we call for that investigation. We say the famous words from Sir Walter Scott, "Oh, what a tangled web we weave when first we practice to deceive." The AG, notorious tangled webs are being revealed as even more tangled than we realized. This mess arises out of Farris's abuse of office for his own personal gain and that of his family and friends. This AG is nothing but a predator. Upon learning of the publicly available details surrounding the arrest of Christian Chandler, I wrote to the DPP to present a factual matrix which could warrant a criminal investigation of the Attorney General and the Director of Legal Unit in the AG's office, Ms. Tenille Ramkissoon. In this time, when our independent institutions are being eroded at a faster pace than ever, by this out-of-control rowdy administration, it is exceedingly crucial to rein in these wrongdoers. To that end, I trust that the Honourable DPP will consider the factual matrix placed before him and impartially and independently act in accordance with the defense of our Constitution and our democratic republic, as he had so faithfully sworn to do. We talked about the October Revolution. Now let me tell you something. What this is about, how we see it. We see it as something that we must do at this time when we are in such chaos under this dictatorship that Rowley has created. As we battled the Rowley regime's attempts to stifle democracy last Thursday, I told you that we would start the October Revolution. I tell you now that this revolution has begun. It is not, our revolution is not a revolution of violence. It is not a revolution of ill will. It is not a revolution with any malice to destabilize our country. So don't get fooled with the rhetoric they're coming with. The UNC was named after the uniting of the Mahatma Gandhi's Indian National Congress and Nelson Mandela's African National Congress. That's how we came up with the name UNC. They fought for the freedom of their people. They inspired the world. We strive to follow in their footsteps. Big shoes to step into, but we strive to fight for the freedom and emancipation of the people of TNT. Both of those movements were revolutionary movements. The UNC is embarking on its own revolutionary movement, a non-violent revolutionary movement, the October Revolution. Like the October Revolution in another country, We are here to fight against abusive powers by would-be kings, queens, czars, and tsarinas. We are fighting for a democratic republic against the dictatorship of Rowley and his regime. We will continue to engage in parliamentary action, but we'll also take action on the ground, in the streets, online, internationally, with our loyal supporters and trusted supporters, and also with all other people who love freedom and democracy in TNT and do not want to be ruled over by a Rowley dictatorship. We will be engaging on the ground in mobilization of the party members, public education and participation, international outreach, and outreach to non-traditional voters. Prime Minister Rowley will not get away with destroying our institutions in order for him to get his own way. Our October Revolution will save TNT from Rowley and his dictatorship. It is a movement, local, national, international, to build a modern parliamentary democracy in TNT, built upon the foundations of our very Constitution and the law. Our revolution will be of united strength to stand up to those in our nation who believe they have the divine rights of kings and queens. Our revolution will be a peaceful one, united in purpose, aimed at politically demolishing those forces which prevent the citizens of our nation from enjoying the standard of living they deserve and preventing them from accomplishing their goals, their dreams, their hopes and dreams, and preventing them, these forces, preventing you from progressing. The corruption, the neglect, the mismanagement of the Rowley dictatorship has spread like a virus to every public institution, plunging us into a national crisis. For too long, they have burdened you with high taxes without equitable returns in your own lives. For too long, they have abandoned the issues we need to live, such as your right to food, proper roads, affordable food, addressing crime, and even addressing the educational needs of our children. Now that they have contaminated the very entities which we need to progress as a nation, they have contravened the foundation pillars upon which our sovereign democratic state, TNT, was created. No longer can people of our country exist in these perilous conditions. No longer can the people of our nation prosper in a society where the highest offices have been tainted by possible political bias. Hand in hand, we lead the October Revolution to say to you that you and TNT deserve better. We see all across our country, people have been rising up demanding better from government, who does nothing but squander and pocket your taxes. I say to TNT, join the revolution, for if we do not fight for a better tomorrow, no one else will. We cannot sit and wait for better days. We must act. I call upon you, join the revolution, and let us transform our nation into one that truly serves the people. So, my friends, we have come very far, but we still have a long way to go. Let us never, ever give up the fight. In the words of one of my favorite singers, the late Bob Marley, get up, stand up for your rights. Get up, stand up, don't give up the fight. Don't give up, my friends. Let us never give up the fight. The revolution to free our country from the Rowley dictatorship has begun. And I say the people demand answers. I thank you and God bless you all. God bless Trinidad and Tobago.